Morning, everybody, and welcome to the Game Design Cuppa. I'm your host, Matthew Dunstan. How is everyone doing? Morning, Nicholas. How are you this morning? It's a quite a lovely sunny day in Prague this morning. It seems to be spring has finally come. Morning, Rory. Morning. And yeah, it's just nice to kick back and relax and chat about board game design for a little bit for an hour or so this morning. Hi, Rob. Hi, Alex. The crew is here. The mountain men or mountain men and women, maybe. Yeah. So how has everyone been? What have you been up to in all gaming things? So yesterday I got a big package of games. I bought some games. I got Morning Bez. There you go. I bought Lorenzo El Magnifico, which is one of the kind of Italian school of design Euro games. They've just released a new kind of all-in, like it's got the base game and all the expansions in one box. And yeah, we played it already last night and really enjoyed it. I'd played it once before. I'm a big, as I've said on the stream before, I'm a big fan of the Euro kind of like Italian Euro kind of thing with Grand Nostro Hotel and games like this. So definitely right up our alley. And yeah, we're looking forward to sort of trying out all the expansions going forward. So that was really nice. Morning, John Ordwood. How are you going? And what other games did I get in the package? I got Tossi Mussi. I got the Quined Games edition. So Quined Games here in Europe, I think they're a Belgian publisher, have done these nice kind of like clamshell, very small boxes that just sort of fold open for some of the button shy games. I've got the Circle the Wagons game, which I hear it's conveniently right next to me. So they made these really nice, the little like sort of one-piece boxes that just hold everything in there. And I think otherwise the components are pretty much unchanged from the button shy games. But yeah, it's a really easy way to sort of carry things around and yeah. And so I don't know how recently they released Tossi Mussi also in the same kind of design. I should have brought it up here so I could show it. But I'm looking forward to play that. So that's by Elizabeth Hargrave. I got Conspiracy Abyss or Abyss Conspiracy, which is kind of like a small tin game version of Abyss. So it's kind of a smaller card game only version of Abyss, which I quite enjoy. And I remember actually playtesting a version of this with Bruno Cathala at Bruno Feduti's kind of like French gathering of friends. This was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. So it's been a while. Yeah, no worries, Aqua. I hope your commute as well goes well. So yes, Tossi Mussi Abyss Conspiracy, Trails of Tuscana or Tucana, Trails of Tucana, which we did play actually very quickly yesterday, which I know was played on Michael Fox's stream. I know he was streaming it, but I'd never played it before. But we quite enjoyed it. It was a really fun game, and it's interesting because I'm working on a few roll flip and fill kind of games which have been compared to Trail of Tucana, so it was good to try it out. Yeah, I'd recommend Rory try out Trails of Tucana. It's a really neat system of like basically flipping 2 terrain cards and you have to join them up, and that kind of variability of flipping 2 cards and making the connection between 2. It's just really clean. The system's really good. It's very simple, and they even have two sides of each page, so they've got like a smaller map and a bigger map, so you can play a 2 or 3 round game, which is kind of nice depending on how much time you've got. I mean, it doesn't take very long in any case. We played the 2-round game. We will try the 3-round game soon. So yes, the Trails of Idle. Yes, because he made his own version, didn't he? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know if the box is better than wallets. I mean, I haven't got the wallets. Has anyone got the wallets from Button Shy? I mean, in a way, I mean, obviously the wallets do their job, and they are kind of smaller. But I guess these aren't that much bigger. It depends how you're going to be like carrying them around. Nico says we missed out on Conspiracy because it didn't arrive on Type 4S and it got caught up in customs. So awesome. Well, yeah, you're right. That's that is right. I'd hoped to get it. It was, I guess, 2019 Essen. Actually, weirdly enough, it has a Czech version, so I have the Czech version. So it got translated. I don't know how broadly available it is. Okay, Rory has a mix of wallets and flip boxes. Okay, cool. They're good for carrying around, but they're pain to store on a shelf. Yes. Well, I mean, to be honest, the smaller card game are also hard to store on a shelf anyway. I tend to. They're all kind of like. Actually, I can kind of show. I don't know if people can see it very well, but like you can see them kind of piled up there. So you sort of try and show them as best you can. But yeah. John Robert has a question. Have you designed a press your luck game, mate? You must have by now. Yes, I have. Well, I mean, Costa Rica is a push your luck game where you're trying to reveal tiles and hopefully not reveal mosquitoes as you're going. Sort of, it's kind of a spatial push your luck game. Brett and I also have a co-design which is kind of with a publisher. It's been with a publisher for quite a while. It's a small card game, which is also a kind of a push your luck game, but it's also an interactive. You're kind of placing cards to claim cards and trying to outthink your opponents. And things like that. And the follow-up was, if so, what big lessons did you take away from designing for the genre? That's a good question. I mean, obviously, you have to pay attention to how light the game is, because obviously, push your luck, you want the games often to be quick and sort of to the point. You don't want them to drag on, and obviously, people can be unlucky, so you don't want if you're kind of out of the game a bit, you don't want it to like kind of go on and on and on. I think one thing is to think a lot about what information do players have to go on when making their decisions, like about what to do in the game. So, a lot of the time you're trying to work out. Well, you're trying to make a decision. You're trying to, it's not just like flip a coin and see whether it's heads or tails. The players want something to go on. So with Costa Rica, when you're deciding which tile to flip next, you have at least some idea of the probability of that there's 3 different terrains, and like there are more mosquitoes. Like the mountains are most dangerous. They have more mosquitoes, but they also have more animals in them, and you want animals. So it's up. You kind of get to choose how much risk you want to take. And I think you just always want to give something to the players so that they can have some idea of the odds, something that can guide their decisions. Hey Jay, how are you going? Welcome. It doesn't have to be very much, and of course it can kind of be partial information, because there's often going to be some unknowns to that. But another example is in Can't Stop, for example, very classic push your luck game, and you don't have any previous, you're going to roll 4 dice, right? But because of the distribution, that it's more likely you're going to get 7s or 8s or things like that. So players have an idea of when they're choosing which numbers to kind of go forward on, how likely it is that they're going to be able to keep doing that. So I would pay real attention to like what information the players have to go on to make their decisions, how they can kind of understand the probabilities and things like that. So Jordan and I would asked about if I designed a push your luck game and what I'd sort of learned from it. I was chatting about a bit about Costa Rica, and I mean, kind of roll and rides and flip and fill games in a way are a little bit push your luck, because you're not completely sure about what you're going to get in future rounds, especially with the kind of like pure dice rolling push your luck kind of games. But yeah, I think those are the main things. I haven't, although I have to admit, I haven't really made a lot of games, in that genre. It hasn't been something that I've done too much of. But yeah, it was. Yeah, I'd say those are the things. Well, are you working on a game, John Onwood, about push your luck? What have you been? Oh, okay, here we go. I have quite a few. I had a quite promising play. There's a new press your luck game tonight, so I wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Oh, great! Thanks for the thoughts. Yeah, oh, pleasure. Well, I hope it goes well. Yeah, if you've got any more specific questions, shout out anytime. So what? And Jay said, I have a game where I think the fix is to have an element of push your luck. What problem are you trying to solve by that? I think obviously push your luck can be good if you want to encourage players to operate with less than perfect information. You want to kind of give them an incentive to make risky decisions. It's fantastic to inject some excitement and tension into a game in a very simple way. And I also love sort of group ways of assessing luck, and like obviously I'm blanking on the name of a very classic Bruno Fedudi and Alan Moon, Ink and Gold. In some ways it's not just push your luck, but it's also how do you collectively decide to push your luck, which is good. Jay said it's a firefighting game. It feels too much like as a puzzle. Yeah, exactly. Rather than dangerous. Well, yeah. It sounds like introducing some unknown into that makes sense. You don't quite know how a fire is going to spread and things like that. and then encouraging players to sort of try and respond to that unknown information and maybe overextend in one area, but then the fire might spread somewhere else. So, and actually, yeah, exactly what I just said about providing tension and excitement sounds like will really suit the firefighting game. I guess, is it a cooperative game? Is it a competitive game? I mean, there was Flashpoint Fire Rescue. That's the only kind of other firefighting game that I kind of know of, I guess. Yeah, but yeah, I think you just have to be careful that it's sort of encouraging and you're always walking this very fine balance of you want it to be unknown enough so it feels a bit lucky, but you don't want it to be so unknown that it just feels like a crapshoot, that it is a complete roll of the dice. The best push your luck games do give that just little bit of information to that players can go on and can feel like they can make a decision that's informed by something, and that's quite important. I was going to round out what in terms of the games I got. Yeah, so Trials of Tucana, and there's one more I think that I got. Tossi Mussi. Oh yes, Micro Macro, which they actually had an English copy here, which was really nice. And we haven't played any of it yet. Just opened the box. And really looking forward to that. That's I'm not sure if I've said it on the channel before. It's my pick for Spiel des Jahres this year. I'll be very surprised if it's not nominated, actually, even though I haven't played it. But from what I've heard, and I don't know the concept, obviously, but yeah. So I think so it's a lot of games, and I also purchased on BGG because I've really wanted to try Kohlbaron or Gluckauf in German, a Kramer and Kiesling game from Eggertspiel, which is like 5 or 6 years old now. I've been really want to try it, but it's kind of impossible to get now. But there was a card game as well, which kind of does intrigue me. I always love kind of Euro engine building games made out of cards. It's something really up my alley, and I knew it existed. And actually, you can get it really quite inexpensively on BGG. So I picked up a copy for about €10 or something like that, and the seller had Turn and Taxis as well. Actually, Turn and Taxis for me and for Therese, my fiance, it has kind of a special place for us because when I first came to the Czech Republic, visit her family, I wasn't living here yet. This was sort of 10 or 11 years ago. We went to some event. It was like an exhibition. It was a really fantastic exhibition. It was in this really cool space on the river, kind of an art gallery, and the exhibition was called Play, and it was. I'm not going to be able to find it now, but it was basically the whole place was just filled with things that encourage you to play. So there was like a huge section with just like different wooden blocks that people were building like different cities like out of these wooden blocks, or there were things with styrofoam, and there were like everything was just encouraged to do like play and creativity and building. It was amazing, actually. I will have to find it and look at. I wonder if the people who did it are doing more work. And it was just full of stuff to do, and it was very free form, and it was really wonderful. And there were some more there were more kind of some curated pieces there too that had very specific functionality and things like that. But at that event, they were actually selling a few board games. I think there must have been a local distributor who thought, well, it's a good chance to sell some board games. Or they had some deal. I can't quite remember, because we ended up getting Turn and Taxis, the Czech edition. And I think maybe it was you could get it cheaper because we'd gone into the exhibition or something. I can't quite remember. It was a pretty good deal for Turn and Taxis. And at the time, Therese hadn't really played a lot of games. We hadn't been dating for that long, and we hadn't lived in the same place where I had a huge board game collection or something like that. I had obviously, I had been playing games for some time, but hadn't really been designing too much by that point. And yeah, we had this game, and that was the one game we kind of had and it was at Therese's family home, and her younger brother enjoyed to play it, and we would play it quite a bit because it was the kind of game we had. That was our kind of one of the very early game experience between the two of us, actually. And of course now, well, I mean, and I was saying last night, I'm sure Therese wouldn't mind me saying that she's so far, to think, obviously I was the person who played games first, but now we play together all the time. And she's gone so far that, when we played Lorenzo last night, And I had played it once before, and obviously I'd read the rules and I've seen reviews, so I knew stuff about the game, and had played it once. Tracy knew nothing, never had seen the game before, and she soundly beat me on the first play. So she the student has become the master, I think. But anyway, but that copy of Turn and Taxis, I think is still at Tracy's family house, but we don't have it here. So it's kind of nice to have a copy of Turn and Taxis. I think we'll enjoy pulling it out. I know it's I'm not sure. Our taste may have moved on a bit, I suspect, but I think it'll be nice, and it was kind of a cheap thing to put in with the package. So yeah, with that, those will also be coming along the way too, hopefully. But let's see how we go. Teresa, who can hear me, has sent me the link to to this play exhibition. Yeah, so I can share it if anybody wants to have a look in their own time. Although you'll just have to translate it from Czech, but yes. Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, or maybe this second one is better because it might be the actual. Yeah, maybe these are the actual people themselves. Yeah. The actual artists.
There's also gallery now, like a permanent gallery.
Oh right, apparently they have a permanent gallery here. Is it in Prague?
No, in Zlín.
Oh, in another town in the Czech Republic. Yeah. So, Rob says, Turner takes good, clear options for goals and objectives. The neatly constrained choices. Would like to get a copy myself one day. Yeah, me too. I'd actually quite like to try the expansion. I know there's like 2 expansions, I think. So I'd be quite intrigued by that. Yeah, I remember enjoying it quite a bit. I've always wanted to implement the kind of special action. So Turner Tactics has this very simple mechanism where there are like 4 people, and they each offer a special action. On each turn, you just get to choose one of them. And it's like you get this special choice each turn to like kind of boost your normal actions on your turn. And it's completely free choice. It's not constrained by anything. And it's really nice. I really like that system, actually. And I've always kind of wanted to put it into my games, because you kind of, the rub of it is normally you want to use multiples of those special abilities. And it's just working out which one you sort of make sense for that time as you want it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it again at some point. Also in the mailbox, I got the French copy of Le Donjon, the dungeon, the adventure game. So that was nice. They sent on. So I now have. I don't have here, unfortunately, because I was at Cambridge, but I have Dutch, German, French, English. I think those are all the languages I have at the moment. But I know, and Czech. I have Czech as well. So yeah, it's going well. Hey Mandela, how you going? That was something also earlier this week. Yesterday I was chatting with Mandela. We were working on our co-design. I think we've decided to sort of shelve it temporarily, pending a kind of a review in a month or so. It's sort of interesting. We were chatting about there are sort of 2 different approaches to design that can be useful when you're working on a design. Sometimes it's really great to like keep up, like meeting every week, trying to play the game every week, iterating every week. That's a great way to push a game forward, and it can be very, very useful. And also, especially when it's a kind of a virtual partnership or relationship, it can be good just to stay on top of things, because if you don't meet very regularly, it's easy for things to slide. And it's a good way to kind of like improve incrementally on a game. But sometimes you also reach a point where incrementalism isn't necessarily going to make a better game. You're kind of refining. I always talk about like you're kind of in science, you have this idea of refining something or optimizing something, and you're trying to find. Normally, you think of them as mountains and valleys, and in nature, things want to tend towards low energy, and low energy is like a valley, and high energy is like a mountain. And you can think of like a ball, and you're trying to push the ball down the hill to get to the valley, so it's sitting at the lowest energy. But you sometimes on the way down, you can hit these kind of little dips or troughs on the side of the hill, which are like the ball will kind of sit there, but then it won't roll all the way down because it'll get stuck in this little ditch on the side, this little local minima. It's not the global valley, but there's like a little valley. Not sure how useful it is. But so when you're very incremental, what will happen is you basically move the ball very, very small distance. And so if it settles into this little mini valley, you can't get out of it. And so you need like a bigger movement to like kick it out of that little valley so it'll roll all the way down to the valley below. And the same with game design. I think sometimes you can be incremental, and you make games incrementally better and better, but sometimes they need a bigger change to really make a bigger improvement. And I think we're there with our game, and we realize that actually we've been very good at meeting very regularly and incrementally improving it, and the game had got better, but we realized that there were just core issues with the game that we need to change, or we want to change. And so we're going to take a step back, give ourselves a little bit of time to really think, is it something we want to keep working on? Is it something that we want to go back to? And B, how do we push it kind of further than what we've been doing, or to change it more radically, I guess. Game design is a load of balls. Yes, Rob, that's that. I'm glad that's the thing you took out of that particular design lesson. Drawn onward, are there any modern design trends that really grind your gears? What about modern design trends that especially excite you? Gosh, that is I would first have to think about what are some modern game design trends, full stop, and then decide whether they grind me or not. Oh gosh, because I have to admit, like I don't play a lot of games I don't enjoy. I mean, obviously it's a bit selective because you buy the games you think you're going to like, and then you end up enjoying them. So I'm trying to think. I mean, it's not. I'm not sure it's a design trend. It's interesting, I guess. It is opening up a bit of a can of worms, but I guess it's the stuff around Kickstarter and the notion of like product and presentation and price and all these things. I was looking at, for example, and I should say front up, obviously, like I've had Kickstarters. Some of them have used some of these similar tactics, so I can't. I'm slightly throwing stones in a glass house, although I'm not the publisher who makes decisions on these things. But I guess it's generally a trend towards what seems to be style over substance. There were the pocket games from Thundergriff Games that were reviewed by Tom Bassel earlier this week. Apparently, are quite terrible, have terrible rules, like are generally not particularly good games. Even though the package is amazing, and they come in this kind of like case that you let carry all the 5 of them together. Thundergriff Games make amazing looking games, and that campaign was massively successful. But I remember actually I decided not to back it, even though it's the style of thing that I love, small games and interesting card games. But I looked at it and I couldn't work out A, how the games work generally, and B, they didn't seem that interesting to me. So I was like, well, if I don't like the game, even if I like the package, I'm not going to get it. And I sort of borne out. And I think it's that kind of, you need this style, this style points to do well now. And it's not really just in Kickstarter, it's in distribution generally as well. There've been a few points on Board Game Geek about, Reiner Knizia games, obviously not going to be reprinted by FG. Grail Games also made a post that they're not going to keep doing their Reiner Knizia games. What am I getting at? I guess the trend that you need this kind of flash, and also that you need to pack in lots and lots of expansions and mini expansions things for Kickstarter when sometimes the games don't need it. I was interested in this like wonderful, what is it? It's a Wonderful Kingdom or whatever, which is sort of a 2-player sequel standalone from It's a Wonderful World. And it's a great base pledge. They have like €30. I think that's great. But then, of course, it's €50 with the deluxe, blah, 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 everything. And that's fine. Like, I'd be happy not. Unfortunately, there's some gameplay stuff in that deluxe pledge. And of course, that's how they do it. But I'm just like, oh, why? What? Like, just make the deluxe pledge completely like component upgrades, so that for the people who just care about the game, they can just, forgo that. And in Monumental had issues, various things with this campaign, but at least we pushed when that, you had a minis version, a Tokus version. The Tokus version has everything gameplay that the minis version has. Minis just have minis, like the gameplay is exactly the same. And we tried to make sure, because I don't like sort of locking gameplay elements in a kind of a deluxe pledge. It's fine to offer a deluxe pledge with better components. Some people like that. But if people just want the game, just offer it to them, and with all the gameplay. Is I guess that kind of grinds my gear, but that's a bit more generally in terms of like actual board game design. I don't know. There's not been a lot that has really sort of annoyed me. I honestly have to think. What's my last, kind of negative experience of really playing a game. But no, I mean, thankfully, I've been pretty good. I played actually Murano this last week too. I traded it on a maths trade. It was a bit disappointing, but it wasn't bad. It didn't grind me. There were some interesting elements. It just didn't like grab me, I guess. Was the thing. Yeah, it's tricky. Nicola, just popping back. So we played Turn Attacks a couple times more often than we had when we had fewer games. We're discussing getting back to it lately. Actually, it's the kind of game we used to get on flea markets here when those still were around. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very available game. And we got it on BGG. I got it on BGG rather cheaply. So yeah, I think I agree. I'm expecting myself to not be as enthralled as I was when when we didn't have a lot of games. But yeah. Rob says it's interesting that most of the issues people have with the way games are these days seem to be production and marketing rather than the games themselves. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very good point. Like, game design has improved massively, over the past, decade or 20 years or whatever, and the average quality of game, especially a game that is successful on Kickstarter or gets into distribution in any real way. Like, once you've cleared that bar, usually the designs are at least good or fair. They're not bad. All the way up to great and fantastic, obviously. So yeah, we don't have you don't have the same things to complain with. I think in terms of in terms of the quality of design. I think that's really improved, and I think there's lots of good resources out there, and I think editorial control within publishers is better. There's more expertise there as well. Yeah, I think that's we are kind of spoilt for choice, and I think and of course the really great publishers are just really raising the bar for everybody else. That we people are becoming more they expect not just great gameplay, but they want great components, they want great art, they want a great rulebook, all these things, which is fair enough, because some publishers can manage to pull it off. It just, it sets kind of a new standard. And it's not a bad standard to aim for, certainly. But of course, you're judged on much more than just the design itself these days, I think. But yeah, you're right. The design generally is very good. And yeah, I can't. But it's also, we have more and more information, or if you're kind of in the hobby, you sort of access a lot of information about games now. And I think the more and more you play, you get more. You don't get surprised as much because you're quite self-selecting, right? You see a game, you're like, oh, that looks interesting. I think that'll be interesting to me. So of course you get it, and of course you like it because it seemed interesting to you. You don't tend to buy a game that just seems horrible or boring or anything like that. So yeah, we have just much more choice and much more ability to get games as well. So that also changes that kind of sense of, you don't sort of turn up to a game night and have to try anything. So it's tricky. Yeah, just give me 1 sec, everybody. I'm back. No worries. Sorry. Nicola has a point. Yeah, it's also interesting how deep the insights are, that it's possible to get, as hobby gamers, into what goes on in the industry. Regular gamers know more about production and like feels like that was usual before. No, that's true. I mean, I think Kickstarter has also changed that, because some publishers are very open about production and they kind of have to be, because people are sort of invested. They're kind of investing in the company, not just investing in a game or as a product. They're investing in the process, so they're kind of much more privy to that process than they were before. And again, I think that's a positive change. I think the average gamer being more aware of what goes into making a game and the kind of expectations. And I think I love I think the best Kickstarter backers are the ones that actually do understand the real difficulty in making a game and things can happen, and those who understand that, I think that helps everybody, because it helps publishers make good decisions and that they hopefully that their customers can also understand maybe why a particular delay happened or something, because they're trying to make the best product or because of the realities of the industry and things like that. Yeah, Nicola, you're right. Yeah, there are more interesting people talking on Twitter, and yeah, there's just more stuff, more content out there, isn't there? Rory says the current Kickstarter trend of needing lots of stretch goals puts me off wanting to use it as credit. It's tricky. I mean, it's not a blanket thing, and I've there are definitely still successful campaigns that don't use a bunch of stretch goals, and I've definitely seen campaigns succeed without that, and I think there is not a niche, but there is a section of people who actually appreciate that. They appreciate, sort of like it's like the counterculture has come so far around towards stretch goals that now there's a counterculture of like anti-stretch goals. So I don't think it's absolutely necessary, and I think you can be quite open about it. And I think people, some backers are actually quite, happy for it. There's just it's hard to, it's just hard to ignore the positives of just in terms of like the just number of backers and the money side of things, because it does drive excitement. I think there's probably ways to do that, because it's as much about revealing new information and sort of improving the quality of the box as it is the actual like putting more things in the box. And there are other interesting ways. I guess my point is there are interesting ways to have stretch goal like things, which don't necessarily have to be putting lots more things in the box. And I think exploring that, I think there's ways to do it. And I think especially if you're a smaller publisher, I think you also have a little bit more leeway. I think the expectations are lower in terms of that you can have a simpler campaign. I hope. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not someone who's about to launch a campaign or anything like that. And I think it is still a difficult market. It's as much about marketing as anything, really. Like I'd say the marketing is much more important than things like stretch goals, because you just want a bunch of people backing early. I would think. Jay says, it seems to me that games now are more iterations of ideas rather than some new, never seen before mechanical twist. Well, but they always were, weren't they? I mean, and there are just more games. I mean, it's hard. There's not this sort of infinite supply of absolutely off the wall things happening. And I think as more games get published, it just means there's more games that do appear to be iterative. But there always were iterations before. There were just kind of fewer of them, and so it didn't feel like everything was sort of derivative. We still have some really fantastic new, like Micro Macro, for example. I think the space in that kind of like game narrative, is it a game puzzle narrative, all that kind of like that intersection, especially at the sort of family level, I think there's lots of interesting things happening there. Maybe at the more kind of Euro level, you kind of see the same things happening over again. I think for me what I would like to see more is again like great thematic and mechanical integration, even if the mechanics are not particularly novel or even the themes are not particularly novel. I think games that can then merge those two in a really intuitive and sort of pleasing fashion. I feel like that's a great direction that kind of more strategic Euro side of things can go. Yeah, there is a bit of a counter movement with making small Kickstarters. Somebody, so I saw someone mention Travis Hill. It's how about the weird pushback towards Travis Hill's card rails, where people are complaining where he's deliberately constraining the scope of the project. Weird. Well, I mean, so Travis Hill was, I would say, is a little bit of a special case in that I think people were annoyed that to get a physical copy, he was only making 100 physical copies and only in the US. I think that was the main pushback. The pushback wasn't that it was a simple campaign without stretch goals or without it was just the availability of the product, that you just really couldn't actually get it. I think if you offered a more available product in that, if you want to back this, you can get a copy wherever you live, but saying the product is this, it's not going to change, you're backing that. I think so. I think Travis Hill was a bit of a special case, I'd say. I think there were some other contributing factors, but he still was massively successful. So you can see that I think if you have a great product, and you know how to connect with the people who want it, then it can still work. I would say, but yeah, it's difficult. And Rory says, I guess the stretch goals are a marketing tool. If we sort that for another marketing tool, then you can probably get away with it. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Alex says, I generally won't back Kickstarter games. I've been burned before by buying games unseen, especially with the added shipping costs. Now I stick to indie projects and that probably won't reach distribution. That's true. I think, yeah, as Jay says, it's I'm much the same. I think unless I think unfortunately because shipping is just getting more and more expensive, it's harder and harder to justify Kickstarter, because if there's an expectation that it will reach distribution or retail, and the reality of it, even if the game doesn't go to distribution, there's usually people selling copies. If I move to Australia, things might change because obviously kind of like the secondhand market isn't as prevalent, but you can normally get something if you want. I've got plenty of games. If I don't think there's ever really been a Kickstarter where I've looked and really regretted it. And so yeah, I'm definitely not backing as many things as well. And then just monetarily, it doesn't make as much sense anymore. I mean, I remember, and like the Queen Stefan Feld Kickstarter is a great example because I'm a massive Stefan Feld fan. But yeah, I just couldn't justify the kind of cost that was going into these games and the shipping and everything. It was just crazy. I was like, oh, I'll be able to get them if I really want them, and I've still got some of the games anyway. So yeah, it's tricky. Rob said, I remember an early Looted Creations Kickstarter game where they periodically increased the price of pledges until they were charging enough the demand stopped. Interesting. Definitely sounds like an Heracles kind of move, I would say. I don't know if you would get away with that nowadays. And also, I mean, I know Looted Creations were, yeah, I think they always had a really interesting approach to Kickstarter. I remember when I had Diesel Demolition Derby with them, is that they were very much, they had their core audience. They weren't worried about doing a massive Kickstarter, and they used it to make quality products. And I think they had that all kind of worked out, I guess, and kind of optimized for that. And their audience expected it. But of course, that was built up over time with marketing and knowing things. So yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. Or said, I really dislike post Kickstarter charges. I have to really want to support a game nowadays to go along with that. Yeah. And I think it's, and that's why it's just this very common question of like, once something, if it's going to go to distribution, if it's going to retail, I think there's very little case for me. But of course, and it gets back to this other thing about putting gameplay. It's sort of interesting. It's really hard to say like expansions of these things, like if they're good or not. I think that's the problem. Unfortunately, Kickstarter has, the one thing it has diluted, I think, is this idea of expansion and extra content. Because in some games, expansion and extra content is fantastic. Like if I have like a 100-card variable card game and you say, here, have 20 more cards, like Lorenzo and Magnifico, in the base game, you have exactly the number of cards you need to play the game. And they made a 24-card expansion. And that's amazing, actually, because it really does drastically improve the quality of the game. Like the quality of the game is already very good. But, in those kind of games, you want variety, you want a bit of replayability. And like that little thing is great. And so, like if it was on Kickstarter, which I actually think it was, I didn't back it, but, and someone had a stretch goal of, like 10 more cards. When you don't know the game, it's very hard to say, like, is that 10 cards actually meaningful? Is it going to change the game? Is it going to improve it that much? Because in some cases it really does. And those are the things that are very hard to get afterwards. And of course, Kickstarter is built around, fear of missing out and all these things. But for me, the really is these gameplay elements that's very difficult to ascertain how good they are, because often though they're not very well described on pages because they're kind of added on, and how important they are going to be to the experience. So it's anyway. I mean, I guess that's my bugbear and things like that. But yeah, I am much more reticent to back things generally, and I try to just support small projects, things like that. And I think I got a print and play of Travis Hill's game, for example. I'm not sure if I ever really will play it, but I really wanted to support what he was doing. And I've done that for kind of more and more campaigns where I just want to support the people. I'm not so worried about getting the product or not. I mean, and I get a print play and I might play it. Of course, it's funny with print plays for me because So most of my job is print playing prototypes that, you know, if I have a finished game that I also have to print play, that I'm like, do I really have to do this? Yeah, it's tricky. Nick says, essential expansions are a higher pledge than the base game rather than as a stretch goal to be added for all later really give me weird vibe to egregious carrot on a sticking. Yeah, I mean, and it sometimes works. Like, for example, I said I love the Italian School of Design. So there was Darwin's Journey on Kickstarter not that long ago. I want to say like it was 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And they had an expansion. And the expansion looked like a lot of good value, like a lot of stuff. And I know these games, these Italian design games, where you actually, that variety does really make a difference in terms of the way you experience the game, presenting like a fresh puzzle each time. I knew it was important, but the problem was you had to get this. You had to get the deluxe edition to get the expansion. There was no, you had to get the deluxe with all the rubbish. That I don't need wax seals. I don't need, I don't know what all the component things. Like I just don't need that, and I'm not interested in that. But I can't get the expansion, or I might have this slightly wrong, but at least the way I'm remembering it is that to get that expansion, I had to pledge at a higher level than I would have liked to, because they kind of wrapped the expansion into the kind of component upgradey thing. And I know that's how people do it. I know that's a very effective tactic. I can't, and it's the industry. It is the way it is. But as a consumer, I think it's a pity, and it's the thing that still. And as a designer, I think I think it leads to people making this extra content that, it's just harder to tell, like, is it good or not? Because if it is good, it can massively improve. Like, because if you love a game and you have that little extra bit of variability, that's amazing. It can really change the longevity of that game. So marketing or gouging, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Also, is it's tricky. Like, prices of everything is just going up. I think that's the other point, right? Like just the actual price of games is increasing as well. So it's sort of hard to, like, Kickstarter is part of that, but I think obviously manufacturing and shipping and all these things, all those prices are going up as well. And so, yeah, it's tricky. Jay asks, wait, what do you consider the Italian School of Design? Well, I mean, there's just this group of Italian designers. They often work with each other in different pairings. I guess my favorite one of them all is probably Simone Luciani, who works with Cranio, but also is an independent designer of his own. These are games like Grand Austria Hotel, Zolkin, Lorenzo El Magnifico, Newton, Darwin's Journey. I'm just trying to see if I could have any of the other ones. I guess like Teo Wakan is like, all those T games are kind of in that as well. There's a group of like 6 or 7 designers. They often work with each other in different pairings. That's what I consider the Italian school of kind of Euro design. Like Barrage is also in that. I guess it's a heavier example in those games. And Simone, I think, tends to collaborate with a lot of people, even as a third wheel. Like on Lorenzo, he's kind of like the third designer. I suspect that the other two sort of started designing and then he helped develop it because it was within Cranio. It was published by Cranio. So and Coimbra is another one in that. Like Coimbra and Alma Mater are also within that kind of Italian school design. I think they're typified by they're generally they're quite puzzly Euros, and they often make use of a lot of variable setup and variable elements to sort of change up that puzzle for each game. But they use and they're quite good at having a good central action mechanism. No, I wouldn't say as inventive as, say, Feld. I think Feld is still, for me, the king of coming up with really interesting central action selection mechanisms, and all his classic games have really interesting things like that. Not exclusively, because I would say games like, say, Castle of Burgundy and Carpe Diem, they don't have a particularly novel thing. That they're closer to the Italian school in that they just use a very good mechanism to do that kind of action selection, to provide variety and chance and things like that. I guess that's what I've increasingly, well, I mean, like Grand Austria Hotel is over the pandemic has probably, cemented it, sort of top 5 game for me of all time. And I enjoy other games of that ilk as well, I guess. That's basically it. Yeah. So, and I guess, well, I should say, keep dropping questions as you wish. We've got about 10 minutes or so before Bez will start streaming. My plans. What are my plans? I guess I'm not sure if I'm going to be streaming on Friday. I think I may be getting towards the point of just doing one stream a week on a Wednesday morning. I quite enjoy these morning streams. It just fits into the day better for me, I think. So I might just go to Wednesday mornings, but I'll see. Oh, Jay, I will have to have not played any of the good. Well, yeah, definitely check them out. Grand House Hotel, fantastic game. I mean, it's a very particular style of game. It might not be your style of game, but if you do enjoy it, there are a lot of games along that ilk. It doesn't guarantee that you will like. For example, I quite enjoy Newton, but there's something that I just like more about Grand Austria Hotel. And so there's some differences obviously within that, but yeah, it's one of those things that if you like those games, that there's a lot of similarities, a lot of similar ways of working on that, which is great. What are my plans? My plans are doing. I'm meeting with Jeff Allers slightly after this. We're going to keep working on our flip and right game. The pitch to Lucky Duck went okay last week, but we have to kind of rework that scenario with Dave Neal. So on Hitman, so we're going to be working a bit more on that. We've got some more development meetings with publishers. As always, I've got some scenario work I have to do for various games. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff going on. I finally got one of the things that you learn when you're a designer is actually if you work with any German publisher, you have to always get like a tax exemption, because a German tax law means that if you pay you royalties, they automatically like take out tax unless you tell them, like via a form signed by your local tax office saying that you pay tax in the country you reside. And it just takes a long time to get these forms. So I finally got the form from the Czech tax office, and now I have to mail it to the German tax office. So that's also like a little bit of fun admin. So I'll finally be able to get paid some royalties, which is always useful. And yeah, just generally, plenty of projects sort of working on. As always, what is anyone else's plans in terms of game design or anything coming up in the next few days? And just trying to keep playing games. I'm really enjoying, having the chance. I guess I'm in a bit of the cycle of like input or whatever. Like I'm taking in new experiences from playing different games, and maybe not as much outputting. I'm not designing as much, but it's this time where I'm sort of like breathing in and breathing in like new ideas. And I'm really excited to try Micro Macro actually, because I think, yeah, I've heard some really interesting things about it, and as someone who is very much in this space of like hybrid family puzzle narrative mystery kind of games, I'm really excited. There was also a new puzzle from the same people who do Deckscape, or looked very similar. And there's like a new where you're making like a labyrinth. I can't remember what it was called. That I'm also really interested. You're kind of building a maze with cards, and it's sort of replayable, or you have different ways you're trying to do it. So yeah, I'm also looking kind of forward to that. Jay is going to be doing some graphics for some rules and soul sheet. Excellent. Designer Cardboard is printing out some cards I made today for one of my prototypes. So everyone's getting on prototypes and things. Excellent. Rob is getting back to Snails and Grays on Friday after a fairly long gap with Alan and Dave. Oh, fantastic. Yes, I remember. No, I haven't played Snails and Grays. I've played something else of yours with Dave. The were we dogs or were we squirrels or something? I can't remember. Rory's saying, still ticking away on Voyages. Some interesting conversations with someone about a possible route to get it produced. Oh, fantastic. Otherwise, I'm having a bit of a breather while I settle into the new house. Oh, and congratulations. I'm not sure if I knew you had moved. I had some feeling that I knew, but well, I hope you're enjoying it. I hope think everything's okay. I know there can be various unforeseen things happening when you move into a new house and all these things. So I hope everything's gone well and you're getting to enjoy that a little bit. And yeah, I hope everyone is sort of well in the more general sense of the word. I know, I guess in the UK things are going a little bit better in terms of vaccinations, where a lot of the list viewers are from. Unfortunately, things here are slow, but that's fine. That's the way it goes, I guess. But yeah. But yeah, so it's slowly ticking away at various things here, as is pretty normal for me. And I'm trying to think, yeah, and just play some games, which is nice. Yeah, it's I realize that's my kind of. I don't buy a lot of things. Like I'm not into buying lots of clothes or necessarily lots of electronics or things like that. I realize that board games are really my kind of splurge spending. So I shouldn't feel so bad that every now and again I splurge a little, which is nice. Also considering that it's kind of a business expense. I could probably, if check tax wasn't so good already, I would be able to claim them back as a business expense, but it's already uh, pretty good for in terms of not having to pay too much tax. So yes, that's good as well. Yeah, I also got Switch and Signal, which is a Cosmos from fellow Cambridge designer David Thompson, which is a great cooperative, like kind of train route game. I'd really recommend people checking that out if you get a chance. Switch and Signal, which is a fun little puzzle kind of cooperative game, which also somehow manages to feel quite different, like it the same level as something like a Pandemic, and it's again like a puzzly co-op, but I think it really does the theme a really good choice. There's a computer game called Train Valley. It's kind of like a board game version of Train Valley, if anyone's played Train Valley, which is also a really fun kind of puzzle video game as well, based on trains. So yes, and I've had my mandatory 3 days away from Stardew Valley, and so I'm probably going to be playing a little bit more. I played a little bit this morning, so I'm trying to get back into it with under moderation, so that I don't completely ruin my hands or something like that. But hoping to yeah. So those are the plans. But as always, thanks everyone for sort of dropping by. Bez, I thought you were planning a week away. Well, yeah, I might have said a week, but it ended up being 3 days. Yeah, but I think I was waiting for everything to kind of subside, and I last day and today I felt pretty much back to normal. So I'm just trying to basically they say just make sure you stretch really regularly, make sure you take regular breaks, all these sort of things. And I'm not playing too much, so I'm not going to have the same. I think it was just I had a day where I really almost just played the whole day, which was it was a lot of fun, but I think it probably had and also now I'm trying to use a controller rather than mouse and keyboard, which I think will hopefully be a bit better. Alex said, I'm still working out which game to focus my energy on. I've lots of changes planned. I've let it get daunting. Yes, that's tricky. I mean, if you get a chance, I mean, always find just like really being like itemizing as small as possible kind of steps and starting with something really easy on the list. Sometimes there's a case where you just have to like, I don't know, change the text on a card and you know exactly what you have to change it to. There's no creative thought. If there are a few things on that list which are not creative at all, like that you just know that like I have to change this icon to this icon, or I have to change this color, or I have to just have to print out this sheet of cards and cut them up. That's a great way I find to like get into the process, because I don't have to. It's just less daunting because I don't have to think about it. I just have to do it, and then once you're in that space, then you can start. You're kind of thinking about the game, and that might help. Nicholas says, I'm still working out rules. Oh yeah, for the Zenobia Award, but also reaching out to folks again after some days away from writing. Oh, fantastic. Well, yeah, fingers crossed as always that that's going well. But yeah, no, it's really exciting. I saw the kind of like the graphic of all the kind of different themes and games that are part of Zenobia Order. It seems that it'll be very interesting to hear about it maybe once it's all over, of what the experience was and how it was. But so far it looks really quite positive, I guess. It seems to have been a great initiative. I know it's a lot of work for both the participants and the people organizing it, but from the outside, it is quite impressive. Pleasure, Alex. I hope it goes well. Rob says, I'm mostly focusing on collaborations at the moment. Knowing that I need to do something for our next meeting is a helpful driver. Indeed, yes. That is one of the best parts of collaborating. The guilt, no, not the guilt, but the accountability to your design partner is just, yeah, it's really handy to keep things just ticking forward. I think that's all you need in some ways. And just having two people thinking about the game and both wanting to push it forward, really helps a lot of the time, I would say. So yeah, no, I'm glad that's doing well for you. And yeah, I'm really enjoying, as an example of a new collaboration with Jeff Allers. It's been really fun. Actually, the game is not finished, but it's quite far advanced in some way, and you know, and yeah, I've really enjoyed working with it for the kind of the short period that we've been collaborating. And yeah, we're just trying to meet once a week and push it along. And I think yeah, it's just always nice to meet and to find you have a good fit with someone. You know, as I said, when I talk about collaboration, it doesn't always happen, and there's no judgment on the people. You know, you can be great friends, but maybe don't work as designers or whatever. But you know, when you do find someone that you can work well with, then that's really great, basically. So I've yeah, I've definitely been enjoying that. I don't know, Bez, are you still here? Because you should be getting ready to start streaming. No, Bez commented only a few minutes ago, because yeah, we're just waiting to go and raid you, Bez. But yeah, and I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of the week. Yeah, so I probably will. I will put a tweet out, but yeah, I think I have decided that I am just going to go down to one, you know, this Wednesday stream once a week. Oh, you're listening, waiting for someone to join me. Might be a surprise solo show. Were you not planning to? Oh, I see. You're waiting for a guest, and the guest hasn't turned up, I'm guessing is what you're saying. Well, fingers crossed that they do turn up. Or surprise solo show was always fun as well, Bez. So yeah, I hope it's okay. But yeah, so I think the Friday streams will be cancelled for until the foreseeable future. I'll just go down to this one. I'm trying to find. There was a really good thread from Suzanne Sheldon. I think that's her name. Suzanne, like Board Game Geek Suzanne, on Twitter, talking about sort of content creation and burnout. And I don't consider myself really a content creator, but it was interesting about like why you doing something. And it was interesting about just finding what's your comfortable level. And I'm still trying to find what my comfortable kind of sustainable level is. And I'm trying, I want to try like kind of the minimum, which I would say is kind of like once a week, and just see how I enjoy that, you know, and how that fits. I am enjoying this, but I guess I just want to make sure I'm enjoying the kind of minimum level. And then if I really want to keep doing more, I think I probably not expanded too quickly, but I, you know, very quickly went to like, I'll do it 3 times a week, you know, really inspired by some amazing people like Michael Fox, which Michael's amazing, like that he's managed to do that level of streaming for so long. But yeah, I realized that I probably bit off a bit more than I could chew, and now I should reassess and I'll keep doing that. But it's a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm not planning to stop entirely, but just be a bit more sensible about it. Anyway, well, if anyone wants to let me know if Bez has started streaming or not, and we will go and raid her. But Bez has gone live, so yeah, we will go and raid Bez. Yeah, no, thanks, Rob. Yeah, exactly. I think it was a really interesting thread, and I think I probably haven't answered the question of like why am I doing this fundamentally. I probably still need to work that out a little bit, but while I'm doing that, probably not trying to make it too much of a treadmill is a good idea. So yeah. Anyway, so let's go and raid Bez. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me this morning. Hope you'll have a fantastic day. Have a great rest of the week. Enjoy some games, game design if you get the chance. Enjoy some nice weather. Stay safe, and I hope you're well. And yeah, see you next Wednesday, same time, same place, next to the same tree. And until then, we'll see you. And let's raid Bez. We'll start the raid. Drum roll. It'll be funny if Bez is somehow, also raiding herself, but I'm guessing that's not possible. Great. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.